Tanisha, do you want to tell Molly your big news? Because we'll make this announcement, but so that she's not blindsided.
Sure. So I'm going to be leaving Anya and I'm going to be helping over in the re-engagement team. Yeah, so it'll be nice.
Huh. You didn't check in with us first, Tanisha. I'm like, no, that's
I know I'm sad to leave Anya, but I'm still going to be here for probably the next 3 months helping around until we get fully transitioned.
Oh, that's great still within Oregon and within ODE and within YDD. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Unfortunately, we couldn't get our act together in time to make this position permanent. So anyway.
Yeah, I get it. No, I'm so glad.
Maybe we can lure her back. I don't know.
We'll
So
see what
Molly,
happens.
Brian and Melissa will be joining us for the first hour, and I don't know how long it will take, but the idea is to introduce this charter, kind of like meet expectation. And I think Sanjay has an update. Mine is going to be super short. And Lindsay, I don't know, I don't expect it to be very long. So I think you can give Brian and Melissa as much time as they need.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say, we don't need to rush.
Okay.
The first
dialogue. Well, it's 101 and I am.
Tanisha, do you know if anybody RSVP'd, like the committee members?
It looks like almost everybody said yes.
Okay, thank you.
And they will give them a couple minutes by all means.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay. Hi, Molly. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Melissa, thank you for joining. I think I got a text from Brian. Are we on Zoom, Tanisha?
Yes.
Thank you. That's his question. Oh, there he is.
There was a Teams link in the invitation that.
Oh,
So weird. I deleted it twice and it's still there. It's really weird.
Still there. Yeah, Teams is tricky.
I wonder if some folks are trying to join us on Teams.
Well, I was in there. I saw Lindsay and Nikia and somebody else, and I dropped the Zoom link into the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
It may be a relatively short meeting today.
Well, it looks like some folks are still in Teams. I wonder if there's another way to bring them into this one.
Yeah, Nikia just joined.
Started. What if I join that meeting and tell them that that's the wrong place?
Yeah, somebody should do that.
We'll see you in a minute then.
Sounds good.
Tanisha, The Teams link is not in my meeting invitation anymore. I know
It's
you
not
and
in
I,
mine either.
right. I
So
was
I,
going
can,
to
I
do
don't
what
have
I was
access to it.
doing, and it didn't work.
But Anya's in there. Should I just go ahead and send out an email though and let them know that it is in fact a Zoom link?
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
It's actually only in the invitation if I view it on my phone, not on my desktop.
Oh, interesting.
Since I'm gonna have to break away, I was getting my phone sort of set up for this, anyway, blah, 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 and seems active.
Hmm.
Yeah, it looks like people are popping in over here now, so that's great. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Zoom. Sorry we left you kind of in Teams world.
Oopsie.
Okay. I'm gonna wait just a couple more minutes till Anya comes back into this space and then we'll get rolling. Okay. Anya is back. Great. Okay. So Anya,
Yes, Molly.
I'm trying to look and see who.
So I didn't have a link to Teams, so I couldn't get in there.
Okay.
Lindsay,
The link in the Teams chat. So it's in there. And I think I saw Brian place it in there as well.
Okay.
The only person that has popped up as joining was Nakia. So hopefully, and I'll try to text her also.
She's here, Sonji. So she's
Oh,
on.
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we
great.
Okay. I just in the interest of time, just to be really respectful of, hopefully others will kind of jump on, and I will leave it up to staff to kind of help us through any of the technology stuff behind the scenes to make magic happen. So I am going to call us to order. And in doing so, I just want to do a welcome on this beautiful February day in Oregon, and take just a moment to kind of center ourselves through a deep breath, or however personally you would like to do that. And take a moment and just really thank our tribes, our many tribes and bands of First Nation who call Oregon their ancestral territory. I want to honor the ongoing relationship between the land, plants, animals, and people indigenous to this place we now call home. I want to acknowledge the continued sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribes within Oregon, and for me, including the federally recognized tribes along the Columbia River in Washington and Idaho, who have ties to this place along the Columbia River, and the subsequent bands within those tribes. And thank them for continuing to teach us and be patient with us as we learn how we might be here all together. Thank you. Tanisha, will you go ahead and call the roll of our group, just so we're able to have that on the record for you?
Nakia? Okay, well, I see that you're present. Sam? Andy? Tabiti? Adrian?
Present.
Thank you. Christina?
Present.
Thank you. Ralphie?
Present.
Thank you. Molly?
I'm here.
And Kiwi? Cool. Thank you. That's everybody.
There's Kiwi.
Oh, great. Great to see you, Kiwi. And Rafi, I want to just acknowledge that this is your last meeting as an official member of the YDC on our Juvenile Justice Subcommittee. But always know that if this time slot works for you and your kind friends at the new employer of the Oregon Youth Authority, your input is always welcome. So thank you for being a member. And for those of you who don't know, Rafi took a new job, which seems to be happening quite a bit now that I mention it. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I don't know if I'm officially a member as of this meeting or not, but I'm really going to be Nakia's shadow. So it's looking like I'll be able to stay engaged in some capacity one way or another. I guess the details are still being worked out, but I'll get to see all of your lovely faces more often than I thought. So that's good news.
Great. Thank you so much. With that, Brian and Melissa, can I ask you guys to take it away?
Yes, thank you. I've been, attending more legislative meetings and hearings. Thank you, Chair Rogers. For the record, my name is Brian Detman.
That sounds really funny. That's like Mrs. Rogers. That is not who I am.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Molly. How about Chair Molly? Anyway, and members of the esteemed committee, all of you, good to see you, Kiwi, Adrian. I see Nakia's name, so maybe she's there in the background, and Rafi, Christina, Lindsay, Tanasia, Melissa, Sanji. Looks like Kiwi's working on his background. Looking good. We're here to do a little business. Before you, I don't know if it's substantive or not substantive, but we wanted to kind of get the new year, I suppose, kicked off with some work to just kind of lay the foundation for our committee work going forward. This committee is strong, and your attendance, your involvement, your track record of meeting not just quarterly but monthly and probably sometimes in between is fantastic. So nothing needs to really change, I think, with this committee, other than trying to put some things on paper so that as we have new committee members come on board, and as we kind of build our handbook, we've got something that says the Juvenile Justice Committee does X. And we've got great folks all around the Zoom room who do a great job of sort of sharing the history and the context and the information. And we can share information that way. But again, having something on paper is something that was one of our goals come retreat. So we're finally getting to that step. I don't know that we're going to accomplish all of the sort of finer detailed work and the writing and the drafting and the editing, but just wanted to show folks kind of what, thanks to Melissa, we've sort of drawn up as a, I don't know, charter might be the right word for this committee. We also have, again, we've added some new people in both Kiwi and Rafi is going to just change roles, but you're, again, as Molly said, always welcome. But given that, again, we wanted to sort of start fresh in some respect with this committee. So Melissa, can you share your screen? Thank you. Melissa's going to share a document that is a kind of template that we're going to use with all of the committees. I think it was sent out in advance, so hopefully you all had a chance. Melissa, we see your desktop, but not the document.
Oops, wrong share. Okay.
No worries, no worries. I get that all the time. What screen am I sharing?
Let's see. And is it this one? I wish
There it is.
We're
Yep.
highlighted. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa. And I'll just note, just from a timing standpoint, I've got about 30-40 minutes, maybe a little longer, to be live and on screen. I'll do my best to log in through my phone, but I've got to get to an appointment. And so we'll be on the road right around just before 2 o'clock. So we'll try to breeze through this. This, again, document just highlights and sort of outlines who's on this committee. You see the list of names there. Thanks, Melissa. Everybody, I think we've got, Rafi, just telling you that we took you off, but if we need to add you back in, if you're going to be a regular committee member, let us know. But I think what I heard you say is you'd kind of be a proxy for Nakia on the overarching council, which we are super, super excited about and want that to continue. So for now, we didn't have your name on the committee list, but if that needs to change, let us know. You're more than welcome to be on the committee. And just for context, for folks who are wondering, as we move into, as we do the work around the council, it is important that we have members representing kind of the diversity of interests and areas that we serve, folks from the community, folks from different areas of work. And we've got, I think, pretty solid representation on certainly at the county level with both Christina and Molly. And then we've got Nakia as a state person, but she's in a non-voting ex officio role. And so now that Rafi's moving from a community-based organization to a state agency, we've asked her to serve in some capacity as Nakia's proxy, if that's okay with OIA, but we don't need to add more state agency people. So just quick context for why that's changing for Rafi. One of the things that we've said or all along, and maybe whether or not how we change out or how we label this sort of community members list, and we're open and welcome other members of the quote unquote community. You are also members of our community, but other folks to join this committee who may not be on the council. So that's just an open invitation. But just know that, again, one of the things I think we wanted to see come out of our retreat and our strategic plan was to add more people just to our committees, and more people we're obviously trying to expand the council as well. So we've got this section for community members. Nobody's name is there, but we want to recruit folks over time to that sort of subgroup. You see the staff members listed. We've let our staff know, based on the work they're doing with grantees or with policy or with various aspects of our work, that they're welcome to both attend and be engaged and involved. And at different points, my guess is that they'll be reporting on some of their work. So here are the list of staff members, and Anya will serve as the liaison from the staff officially, and then Lindsay, Sanji, Abraham, and Taneja are all involved in this committee in one way, shape, or form. So any questions up to this point? Melissa, is there anything that I've missed that you want to add or
just a shout out for Tanisha and her new job, which will eventually mean that we will likely have a different administrative support but Tanisha has moved to a permanent role on a different team with YDD, but has graciously agreed to continue offering support for this committee for the time being.
Yes, congrats to Tanisha. Molly, you have a question?
I do. So out of curiosity, just how would you like us to kind of interact? I'm actually asking just for all of the members. Would you like us to take each section and kind of provide you feedback, or do we want to do feedback at the end? I'm just asking the process question.
Yeah. I think I was going to go through this next section around the purpose and the purpose statement. So I think I'll take a pause after each section, more or less, for feedback and input. But so as it relates to the sort of people part, is there anything there that you want to ask about, Molly, or other committee members? No? Okay. I actually go, Molly.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really have any comments. I just want to make sure how you want to set it up. I apologize.
No worries. Well, I actually do have one people related, comment, and maybe you can scroll to the top, Melissa. I think, there's Molly, you're the chair. We deeply appreciate your serving as chair. I don't know that in our rules or procedures, whether we define how long somebody serves as chair. I am super psyched and happy for you to continue in that role. But I just figure, Anya, you said this great statement when somebody said something about opening a can of worms, that it was like a good thing. I can't remember, or somebody in one of our staff meetings said, well, no, opening up cans of worms is good. I don't know.
Well,
said it more
that
eloquently.
was me, because I always like to use some metaphors without really knowing how the sentence will end. So what I said, sometimes opening can of worms is a good thing because you could catch some fish or birds or something
Yes.
with it. And then I was like, what do I know about fishing or bird or anything? But anyway,
thank you, Anya. I guess I just wanted to ask, and we don't have to have an answer, but if one thing for us to think about, and Molly, is just the tenure of your service, shall we say, around chair, and just if there's anything that we need to, as a committee, be thinking about in that regard. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I don't know what that looks like.
Having come into this, I don't know how long ago Chief Teague left.
He last spring.
Yeah. So that's when I kind of became chair. What I think is really wise is that we need to get a vice chair in path, so that there's a pathway to move forward.
Okay.
So that as we take this back and kind of think about it, that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Because then it doesn't feel like such a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And I think probably the state work and the YDC work was less of a learning curve for me.
Mm-hmm.
I luckily had some background on the federal work, but that clearly is where I feel like is the sharpest learning curve.
Okay.
So I do think there's value in some transition planning way ahead of movement of chair.
Okay. So what I hear you saying, and maybe that's then a thing for us to add, Melissa, is just like a vice chair, maybe you highlight it in yellow or something, but having someone serve in that vice chair role on this committee for, I don't know, 6 to 8 or some number of months, might then line us up for then the next chair. I'll say it might end up being in 2023, Molly, not to, but I'd rather be clear with expectations. So TBD. Any other comments about that? Okay, moving forward, since time is of the essence. So the purpose statement, we don't actually have a statement, and Melissa and I actually were thinking this morning as we were preparing for this part of the meeting, should we write something for the committee? But you know what? Rather than actually formalize or write a sentence for you all to digest and pick apart, we thought, that didn't seem like the right move. We thought, here are some bullets on that I think you all have seen before because I've shared them at various points at council meetings or as a part of the sort of strategic plan preparations. Like this by no means probably doesn't, fully summarize all that this committee does, but in a set of bullets, this was a quick attempt and kind of high level 30,000 foot bullets. I know that this group weighs in on local juvenile, this first bullet, right? 30-day detention and other matters and juvenile crime prevention plans that counties and tribes submit. I mean, there's a whole host of things, but this was our attempt to kind of summarize the sort of responsibility, the areas of work. We could leave this as is and say, okay, this is, I don't know, it's not a statement, but we could take out the word statement, but having some sentence that says this committee is responsible for the following. Again, I don't think we need to overthink it, but I just want to be able to articulate the focus and the work at a high level of this committee, again, so that if we handed this over to somebody, they could say, oh, okay, I kind of get it. So we wanted to leave it rather open-ended rather than to just say everything. The bullets felt like a really good start. Are there thoughts about how to articulate the purpose statement? Or again, we can send this to you via, I think you got it via email. We can workshop it over email, so to speak. Or as staff, we could, Anya, we could come up with something and have you react to it if that's easier. How would people like to either comment or ask questions about this? Christina, please.
I'm sorry, I can never figure out how to raise my hand on this version of it. Sorry. So I just do it here. Thank you.
Great.
I think that the bullets that you have are a good start.
Yeah.
When I look at it, I look at the bullets, the thing that I see missing is, and I know the third bullet down, monitor and ensure accountability on RED, technical assistance for counties with provisional and conditional status. I think that's a subset of the role of this group is to create the guidelines and oversee, really, for lack of a better word, the juvenile crime prevention planning process that every county is responsible for. I mean, that's always been a big piece of it. So I don't think that that's called out in and of itself. I mean, this is the, we're required to take it to lipstick. It should be a community engaged process. So I think we need a bullet about that. Would just, in addition, I'm not advocating to take away the third one. I'm saying in addition to the third one. Yeah,
because you're right. It's sort of subset, if you will, the cultural strategies and the tech. And this provisional conditional thing is something we determined last summer as a sort of strategy or tactic to pursue. So that makes sense to me. And Melissa, I think you're taking notes, or maybe Tanisha, you too. We're having this committee the committee meetings we recorded. We'll capture this point. Christina, I think it's a really good one to kind of add, and then that's an additional bullet. Other comments or questions? Kiwi, Adrian, what do y'all think about this?
So with the silence, Brian, I'm actually kind of curious.
Please.
That if I were to ask them, not on the spot here, but if everyone was to send in what they thought they were signing up for this committee, I think it would be interesting to read the responses. I don't know that we'll do that because I maybe agree with Christina on. I was probably looking at this more of the 100,000 foot level.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe it's because I have done so much training recently on the SAG and the higher level of work from the federal level is these seem a little bit more like tasks rather than maybe an overall purpose statement.
Sure.
And so I'm just curious if maybe we were to craft, and I would be glad to take that on as the first couple of sentences, but please always, everyone understand, I have no ego in my words. English was my, not my chosen major in college. So it never hurts my feelings if somebody comes in and finds better words, but really that we're taking a look at Oregon's kind of juvenile justice system through the lens of OJDP and really truly kind of looking at it from that much higher level. And underneath it, we have some tasks to do. So that's just kind of my response to this. I'd love to hear other people's response. And Kiwi's got his hand up.
Yeah, please. Thanks. Yeah, Molly, awesome. Kiwi.
And now, Brian, I'm just observing because I've been that juvenile. I've been that juvenile before, so I've just been sitting here and observing, seeing what other people got to say and stuff like that. So I'm paying attention. I'm just wondering what everybody else got to say, just trying to see, and then I'll give you my input because I've been that juvenile before.
Yeah, that's great, Kiwi. We just appreciate your voice, hearing you. And Molly, I think that's a great idea. We could have. I saw maybe Christina put a comment in the chat. Might be a place too we could capture kind of people's thoughts. Like, what's the committee I thought I was joining? I'll ask this as a question. And Anya and I have had various conversations about this. And not to confuse people, but right, the federal expectations, Molly, that you were referring to, are super important, and the second bullet sort of does some at the pretty high level kind of allude to the federal level stuff, the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. And the council itself is our state advisory group. So differentiating between what the committee does and what the council is responsible for, but connecting the dots between the council's role as the state advisory group and this committee's role in monitoring, monitoring and kind of helping to guide how the full council meets those state advisory group requirements is essential, right? We don't get access to the federal dollars unless we have a SAG, and we would be putting ourselves in jeopardy if we didn't meet all the expectations and requirements. So maybe articulating the relationship between those things a little bit more clearly it seems important. Staff or Anya, you've got great history here too. Any thoughts from you?
So yeah, I'm with Christina. I don't know how to raise my hand, and I'll try not to raise my voice. I'll just speak up. So I think there are multiple ways of looking at it, and I think all of them are super important, because I like Molly's idea, surveying council members, what do they expect will happen in that committee. I think it's very interesting. Why did you sign up for this? Mm-hmm. There are also like super prescriptive roles that this committee has to play, and they are described in other duties of the council. I can't remember the number of the revised statute, because everything that's described in the statute as other duties of the council is basically, if not decided, but the recommendations for the full council are being made in this committee through the work of this committee. Mm-hmm. They would relate to pretty much everything that's described in other duties of the council. And there are two larger sort of areas of influence that the council has, and this committee serves as a think tank to come up with recommendations for further decision. So one distinctive sort of area would be the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. And there are several things within it. There is monitoring for compliance, that's Lindsay in that role of compliance monitor, and the committee provides guidance and advice to compliance monitor. Okay, the second one here would be monitoring for racial and ethnic disparities in the juvenile justice system, and that's the role that Sanji plays, and the committee, and it comes back to the committee for further discussion and moving forward. Third one there, and I'm still with the federal law, is money. What are the priorities for the federal funds? This is where we get to this 3-year plan that we worked on. And within that plan development for the funding is the analysis of the juvenile justice system in the state. So there's that policy level. So, and I was still in the federal thing, but there are like 4 distinct categories within the federal area of work. And then there's the juvenile crime prevention, which is the state fund, state general fund, that also requires quite a lot of thinking and oversight and planning. So this is the committee with the, of course, assistance of staff, develops the guidelines for planning. Guidelines is in a way, the measurement of expectations that the counties and the tribes need to meet. So that's, and I'm sorry for taking too much time, but I'm going to say that there's something that we have to do, whether we like it or not. And that's how you can say like, oh, this is too much work in this committee. Yeah, this is the committee that works a lot. I'm just saying, the new members, I'm so glad you're here. Please don't leave us, because we need you. We need you. Seriously, we do. So so there's a lot. And last, not the least, is the 30-day extended detention and detention guidelines for the state of Oregon. So that's the third kind of distinct and large pot. So federal, state general fund, JC, juvenile crime prevention, and detention guidelines for all facilities and certification of extended detention programs. So that's how I see it. And everything else can be organized around these things. But it's also, there's a fun part. You know, there's always a fun part, is to decide what policies are good for the kids. So there's that influence potentially how we can improve the juvenile justice system and prevention services for the kids. With that, I'm going to be quiet, promise. And Molly and the committee, Brian, everyone, whatever, you know, I can add all those, you know, areas of influence, if you will, and well, wherever in the document, whatever you feel it fits.
That's great. Well, maybe this is like kind of the reason why we didn't put it all into the document, because it would have been a lot. But also, I don't know. I only speak for myself. It's helpful to hear the information, right, and to have to talk about it a little bit, right? Not all the answers are provided in the document for a reason, so that we can actually wrestle with some of the ideas. And so, Anya, I think as a next step, well, maybe that's something we don't, again, offline or, you know, via email, to the point of, you know, Molly perhaps working on a little, maybe a draft overarching statement of some kind, and Anya taking a stab at making these bullets make more sense in the, I think if I heard you correctly, 3 different areas of work,
Right.
federal, state fund.
Ones that have like under bullet points within themselves.
Yeah, which is, I think, so re-articulating that, I think, would be really valuable. And it should end up in this document. But so that's what I imagine as a next step. And then that we can share that with the committee, and folks can wrestle with it over email. Let's move, since we've got, I don't know, I've got about 10, maybe 15 minutes more. And you've got other things on your agenda, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. and the goals and activities. I think we didn't, Melissa, help me here. So you put a link to the strategic plan, and I suppose part of an exercise that we were imagining that we wanted each committee to do was, okay, well, what pieces in the strategic plan should the committee be, if not fully responsible for, at least weighing in on, providing guidance, recommendations, etc. So we haven't gone through and identified all of those things yet, but that's another, I think, critical step that I'm asking you as a committee, and whether it's staff doing that as an initial first step, but there are things in the strategic plan. Some of these things are already moving. You know, we've been reporting at council meetings that here's what's going on. So we're moving forward on various items in the strategic plan, and Cord, I think, does a great job of bringing you kind of an overarching progress report. You know, I'll just take one thing, and it was kind of called out in our strategic plan, but also in the works, that Anya and team have moved our JCP, juvenile crime prevention, JCP agreements, shall we, as they're with counties and tribes. They were within the ODE sort of structure, actually articulated as contracts and not grants, and we've moved them into being grants within some of the internal systems at ODE, not without some up and down and some questions from counties about insurance and so on and so forth. But that's one of the things that we wanted to have some internal alignment, a critical thing called out in our plan, in our strategic plan, and that was one of the things that Anya worked a lot on with the procurement office over the last year. So there are various things that I think we should be articulating in the strategic plan that that relates to the work of this committee. So that was my idea on this section. We haven't filled it in, but does that sound reasonable? Are there questions about the strategic plan part of this? I'm going to say out loud, this probably, Anya, this is probably something that I'm happy to help and support this, but also between Cord and you, and or maybe Cord and another staffer, we could get this part filled out. Does that make sense, Anya?
Yeah, totally. And I think maybe if not at the next meeting, but maybe in a couple of months from now, we can have a conversation at this committee, with this committee, about the strategic plan and where you know, it fits with the work of the group.
Great. Molly, I maybe saw you coming off mute, or somebody, my eyes may have deceived me, but does anybody have comments or question? Nope. All right, I'm going to move us on, because and then at the bottom here, we've just included, I believe, Melissa, this is language that from either our from our handbook around how these committees and or we'll often have work groups put together, how they function. So this just describes kind of how that shall work. Does this, Melissa, any comment here? This comes out of the, does it come out of the handbook, or what's the source of this?
It does. It comes out of the handbook, and I can add that back in. I must have deleted it. Sorry, the source of it.
No, okay. So this has been the sort of standard practice across the council for how committees function. Thought would be helpful for folks to be reminded of that. And last thing is, I think, again, this is a going well, high functioning committee, but just to affirm your meeting schedule, that also will enable us to get meetings planned out and on your calendars into the future. I think they're frankly already there, if I'm not mistaken, that you're meeting on the first Monday of each month. That's my sense. So my question is that going to be the continuing schedule for this group? And if not, then please say so.
For this moment in time, the answer is yes. I don't think we can go to anything more than, I don't think we can back off monthly meetings.
Yeah.
Especially because up earlier where the charges, I think we're probably one of the more prescribed subcommittees of the YDC.
Yeah.
And this time slot seems to be working. I do think that we need to build in, similar to talking about the chair tenure, as doing a doodle poll every couple of years to make sure that we're still kind of tapping into everybody at the right time.
Okay.
But as the chair, it's my prerogative, I guess, in some ways to say, yeah, we still have to meet monthly because I can look at the workload.
Yeah, there's a lot you got to do. Compliance monitoring plan that we need to get resubmitted. There's the technical assistance and racial. There's just a lot of work. You're right.
Yeah,
well,
right. And detention guidelines, right?
Yeah.
We're now almost 2 years out from getting those completed after the DRO report, and we haven't rolled that into a strategic plan to where we're actually going to the site. So we have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I think I'm going to have to ask everybody what they thought they were signing up for. I'm joking. I'm teasing. I know everybody came on board wanting the right thing, but there could be a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot. All right. Well, it's about 1:45. I don't want to take up any more of the meeting. Wanted to introduce this to you. I think it was sent out before the meeting, but at least we've had a chance to kind of talk through the different sections. Just to kind of the tasks and actions as I see them, we'll fill out this. It's a Google Doc or it's a shared file that we'll happily get you another version of. Melissa or Tanasia, I'm not sure. We'll get the meeting schedule first Monday of every month. We'll get that. That's pretty clear. This committee explanation will leave. Maybe we'll put that at the bottom or something because that's kind of really standard. Sounds like Anya, I'd like you to take, it may again be talking with me and or Cord about the strategic plan pieces, and let's make sure that those get added. I think, Anya, another task for you, because you did such a great job of articulating the kind of big buckets that this work falls into, that obviously will be run by the committee and by you, Molly, I'm assuming. And Molly, if I heard you correctly, you were willing to take a stab at kind of a statement, a sentence or two for the purpose statement. And again, we'll run that by the committee. And just in summary, I think Anya and Molly, you all will decide, do you want to bring this back in early March for kind of reconsideration and some kind of affirmation, or does it need to wait until April? I just want to, as I said, get something done. And if we've got a YDC council meeting next month. So what I'd ask is that you just share your progress. I'd say by the June meeting, I'd like to see each committee have their kind of charter, if you will, completed. So this is not needed at the top of your list. This committee, as Molly has indicated, has lots of other very specific work that it needs to do. So, completing the piece of paper shouldn't be your,
We'll get it done, Brian. We'll get it done. This committee rocks. We'll get it done.
Get it done. I appreciate it.
I have no doubt.
For me.
So, Brian, and Melissa, while we're in this group, I was just wondering, the conversation about chair terms and also vice chairs, I do not recall seeing any language about it in our, Melissa, what do we call that? The workbook? No,
the policy and procedure manual.
Procedure manual. So since that policy and procedure manual was technically approved by the full council, I wonder if any changes to that book need to be voted on, because that could be something, if we're doing it across all committees, something to add to the book. I mean, maybe I'm thinking out loud, but at the same time, Youth Development Council meeting is coming up in March, which is pretty soon. So anyway.
In the policy and procedure manual, there are timelines and durations for the chair and vice chair of the council, but that same information isn't, trickled down to the committee level. So I imagine, I've only been here a little over a year, but I imagine it was sort of just left up to each committee. I'm not sure, but.
Oh, okay.
I do not want to get into all the nitty gritty of going to the council for a vote. We'll do our best to do some thinking about that, Molly and Anya, what makes sense. Is it probably at least a couple of years for a committee chair and probably a similar term for a vice chair. But you can see that I'm committed to writing things down, but I don't know that we necessarily need to go and have a vote about it. Because that flexibility that one committee may need over another is probably good. The fact that we haven't operated with a vice chair, for example, it's not ideal, but the committee's functioning. So we'll figure something out, but I don't think we need to go back to the council, but we should have a basic framework.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I'm committed. We decide what we want to do.
In a sentence. All right. I'm gonna get on the road, but I'll try to call in on my phone, so you'll see my phone number. But thanks.
Safe travels.
Thanks,
Okay. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Brian.
You both.
And thanks, committee members who are here, and those who are not, we'll reach out to and make sure that they're included through email, so we really have that kind of broad conversation. Tanisha, want to throw the agenda back up on the. Okay, perfect. So Sonji, we can go ahead and kick it to you and let you lead us through. I don't know if you have a PowerPoint today or not.
I'll pick it up from the kick. Thank you, Molly. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's good to see you all. Especially want to say hello to Kiwi and Nakia, who I don't think I've had any communication with this year. But to everyone, happy Lunar New Year. Kiwi and Nakia, happy New Year, hey. And also happy Black History Month to everyone. And I'm going to share my screen and just show a brief conversation starter with you all. So for the sake of everyone, just to give a very quick recap of the racial and ethnic disparity technical assistance process and how we got here as a derivative from the juvenile crime prevention county plan submissions that were reviewed last summer in 2021. Just for the record, my name is Sanji Moore. I'm the Racial and Ethnic Disparity Coordinator with the Youth Development Division. So one component of the plan that we are specifically looking at is a prompt under question 6, which was evidence-based practice and cultural appropriateness. And that prompt was for the submission to provide a description of cultural strategies, including addressing racial and ethnic disparities identified in your data analysis and inclusion. Previously, there was the scale that you see applied on the left to the submissions for that particular prompt. Recap: 7 counties received exceptional, 6 counties received satisfactory, 16 counties received needs improvement, which was previously a conditional approval, and 7 counties received unsatisfactory, which was a provisional approval. So the counties that we are focusing in on this process are the counties who previously received conditional or unsatisfactory, AKA provisional. A total of 23 counties. We learned that we had to shift the process and allow resubmission and encourage participation in the technical assistance. So these 23 counties have been asked to please resubmit their plan, particularly as it relates to question 6 for evidence-based practice and cultural appropriateness. And again, the specified bullet point that you see. So now we are going to do a point system. There was a full presentation on this in the last Juvenile Justice Committee meeting, so I won't go into depth on that. If you have any questions about the new evaluation, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Anya, or Brian, and we will be able to discuss this with you in detail. So of those 23 counties that received either needs improvement or unsatisfactory, who were again requested to please resubmit their plans by February 28th of 2022, particularly again, that prompt about description of cultural strategies and identification and analysis of racial and ethnic disparities and inclusion. There were 17 counties that have voluntarily made the decision to at least participate in a meet and greet with myself, which is in essence, symbolically accepting the technical assistance process. Because this is a voluntary process and everything that is a part of the process is optional, they can decide what they are interested in and what best meets their needs, and it would be tailored to their discretion. But 17 of the 23 counties did say that they at least wanted to participate in the meet and greet. 3 counties, excuse me, just to clarify for the record, 3 counties stated that they only wanted to resubmit their plan. They were not interested in the meet and greet nor participating in the technical assistance. 2 counties stated that they are still going to make a future decision about if they would like to participate in technical assistance. And of course, they will resubmit their plan by February 28th. So there's possibility that they may proceed with components of the technical assistance or they may not. And 1 county we have not heard a response from. So I feel like it's a pretty great response that 74% of the counties that are a part of this process decided that they at least wanted to participate in the meet and greet and have a dialogue about what the racial and ethnic disparities technical assistance would be, and just look closer into their plan. And if you want more information about what the meet and greet process was comprised of and more details about how we have framed the technical assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Or you can look at the video of the January 2022 Juvenile Justice Committee meeting recording. Of the 17 counties that are participating in the meet and greet, 9 of those have been completed. 8 will be completed by February 18th. I have received 3 draft submissions already. One of those was prior to a meet and greet that has yet to happen. So the offer was extended for them to allow me to review their draft resubmission, and we could discuss it in the meet and greet, and 1 county took advantage of that. And so I have that in preparation of a future meet and greet. I have 2 counties who, after we met prior to the February 28th deadline for resubmission, stated, hey, will you please just look over this and tell me what you think and see what feedback you have before we finalize our resubmission by February 28th. I'm going to give you an updated overview of the timeline that has been previously shared with you, including back to December, which things that have already occurred and you have again been shared in previous meetings. So back in December, we hosted the RRI data training with our partners at JJS, and we developed this resubmission criteria, finalized it last month, scheduled the meet and greets. We started the meet and greets, and we are in the process of having conversations with a organization who we hope will be the final selected entity to perform a diversity, equity, and inclusion and disparities related training with us in the future. This month, again, we will wrap up the meet and greets and continue that discussion with this proposed partner. Again, the plans are due by February 28th. For the counties who decide they want to do some of the other activities that I shared with them during the meet and greet, we will develop a framework for how that would work for them and schedule times for myself and potentially directors or other members of their staff to pursue our journey into technical assistance. We will continue planning our data walk, which was one envisioned component of strengthening data analysis and identification, in addition to the RRI training that Jay just conducted for us. We will hope to finalize the preparation for the DEI related training next month. And I will go over what, not in detail because I don't want to share anything until it has been finalized, but starting March 1st, or as you will see in a future slide, at your liberty and what you decide about the reviews, they technically would begin March 1st. As was shared with you previously, hope to author a overview document as a resource that is standing for those who want TA, those who don't, just as an available resource that we could possibly share on our website, or as a refresher for those who have participated in overview of racial and ethnic disparities. April and beyond, these are things that are living, and hopefully you will be actively involved in helping us determine moving into the future. The previously stated date for completion of the reviews of the resubmissions by this committee was May 31st. We'll be, of course, continue the TA into the to be determined future, the technical assistance, finalize and hope to publish sometime later this year that document that I just shared. The training that we have envisioned with our proposed partner would be two parts. One part would be a series over the months of April to June, and then the second part would occur in September of this year. We hope to continue and finalize the data walk. Right now, the soft goal is sometime late fall or winter of 2022. And the part that I'm seeking a lot of input and will discuss in the next slide, especially piggybacking off of the conversation you all had about the purpose of this committee, that I seek your help with, and all of it, feel free to chime in with opinions, advice, feedback, ideas at any point. Are the planning of diversity visits, which we kind of discussed previously, of counties possibly visiting to help enhance cultural awareness of a county that has a different demographic makeup than their own. And that could be in any part of the state. There's no particular crisscross or dots that would have to happen in those visits. But of course, because of the pandemic, and so many different things. And this, of course, would be voluntary for the hosting county and the visiting county. And hope eventually to possibly bring this to the Oregon Juvenile Department Directors Association, excuse me. The same thing with mentorships. I'm putting the air quotes in the space so that it's not, for the record, that is not a exact phrase. It's just a conceptual explanation of what we hope to happen, which is already happening in some sense for counties reaching out to their counterpart across the state to ask Hey, how did you do this? What was your success or challenge in the area of drafting your racial and ethnic disparities plan and programs and services? What resources do you use? So we just hope to be a facilitator of counties reaching out to each other. And we know that COJAC is an excellent way that that's already happening for counties in Central and Eastern Oregon. I learned in one of the meet and greets that there's a similar space in Northwest Oregon. And so we hope to just continue to facilitate that process. Especially, I've had requests for counties who would like to see a county who got exceptional and review their plan. And will be soon reaching out directly to the counties to ask for their express permission to be able to share their plan if they so desire. Again, we talked about hosting community forums to increase the voice of those who are impacted by the decisions that we make and the work that we do. And that is something that is a work in progress, and hopefully will bring a lot of our system partners and stakeholders in this juvenile justice system to the table to try to help plan that. And of course, this is already happening in many aspects, but we definitely hope to be a nucleus in this process for our juvenile department county partners and the spaces that we see that there is a need to amplify the voice of the family and more specifically the youth. And finally, with that youth engagement, which you will also see on the next slide. So I won't go in depth there, but we know that that is something that is ingrained in our strategic plan. Nothing about us without us. So we want to help our county partners across the state amplify youth voice. By sometime this summer, hope to publish the overview document. And we will, of course, evaluate how these technical assistance journeys are going, see what adjustments need to be made, what we can strengthen, what our weaknesses were, what we are doing right, and continue and grow. So that is something that will be ongoing for the next year. All of this potentially would carry over into 2023. So for your consideration, what happens next when the reviews begin? Hopefully there can be a discussion about how this committee will be involved in that process and what that will look like after the February 28th deadline, leading up to the stated timeframe from this committee of May 31st, 2022. How can the Juvenile Justice Committee may assist with the racial and ethnic disparities technical assistance outside of reviewing the resubmissions? And so to the point of the work and the purpose of this committee being broader than just the bullet point that was shared about the technical assistance, and also encompassing the juvenile crime prevention administration, I thought that it would be excellent if there are any committee members who are interested in potentially forming a subcommittee or an ad hoc committee specifically to work on the racial and ethnic disparities technical assistance process. So I have stated this a couple of times, but definitely open for any thoughts about that. And if you all think that that is something that would be beneficial or that you're interested in. Again, talking about visiting the more diverse counties, that's something that we would just kind of be a facilitator of. Ultimately, that would be up to the counties involved, but we hope to continue to help engage and assist in any way that people are open to it and people are interested in it. The same thing with the mentorship. Of course, we know we are very fortunate to have Molly and Christina as a part of our council, and they are also county juvenile department directors. So definitely interested in your thoughts and feedback about the second and the third arrow with the connection of counties with their counterparts and also the cross day in the life is something that was framed by one of our county stakeholders. And I thought that was an excellent way to frame it, as being able to see the operations and the daily occurrences of a county whose landscape is opposite than yours or significantly different than yours. I think there's a huge opportunity there to enhance cultural awareness and to just also see what your counterpart county has to at their realm. So it's a great learning experience. And, you know, based on the 9 meet and greets that I've had so far, in some aspects, it's already being done. So again, with the community forums, I hope that this is something that we can continue to determine who should be at the table in this planning, what system partners would be integral, what community organizations would be integral in this planning, and how we can facilitate the hosting. And of course, right now, there's a huge question mark about stuff being in person or virtual. Ideally, things like this would be more impactful, in my opinion, in person, but because of our current state with the pandemic, that may not be possible. And finally, increasing youth representation. And Kivi, don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have any thoughts about, and also for Molly and Christina, you know, I've been talking to the county partners that I've been visiting with, for instance, having periodic youth at the table for an OJDDA meeting or a LIPSIC meeting. And I know I have visited Multnomah County LIPSIC, and they at that time did have various voices in the room and participating in the meeting. So I know, again, in many aspects, this is being done, or at Kojak, for instance. And I don't know if Kojak has ever invited a youth to the room to be a part of the discussion. But I think in all of these governing and decision-making bodies, just like we have here today, it would be very impactful and beneficial to hear from the people who are impacted by the decisions that we make and get their voice and what we could do better, what we're doing right, and any ideas and how the decisions and the policies and programs and services that we are a part of have affected their life either positively or negatively. So these are things that I open the floor for discussion. Thank you for your time, and of course, any questions as well.
Great. I'm going to actually ask Anya to help me kind of frame the task for today. So Anya, will you please help me frame the task?
Sure. I think, and thank you, Sanjay, for sharing kind of the short-term goals and the longer going in the future. I think for now, I would ask the committee to consider what are the immediate steps. And the immediate steps seem to me the discussion about the review period. So the plans are coming in, namely not the whole plans, but the section of the plan, right? So we're not talking about reviewing the everything, but hopefully a rather short, small, and I'm emphasizing these just to help you understand it's not going to be a tremendous amount of reading to do, but it's going to be targeted reading, because now people are given very specific kind of like sub questions on the question, and also a ranking system, what scoring will look like. So with that, I think what we may want to consider doing is the following, the practical way. So I'm comfortable, and I probably should do it. Well, I know I need to do it. I will send out a reminder to folks who are in that 23 county group that the resubmission is due by February 28th. And I will ask them to send the resubmitted plans to Sanjay and myself, so we both have copies of that. Once I receive the plans, I will be putting them then on the same smart sheets that we used for the plan review, because you all have access to them. And if you don't, the newer members just remind me. I will make sure that you have. And I'll make a new column there, and that will be like resubmitted sections. So when you look at it, when you do your review, you just see, well, first you can look at whatever you want, but that will be the area that of interest. So there'll be the column where those plans will be put, but I also make another one for your notes and scoring. Now, Madam Chair, and the members of the committee, I will let you decide how many plans each one of you will want to review. Is it going to be everybody reviews all 23, or it's going to be like a grouping? And we don't need to decide it now, but it's something to keep in mind, because our next meeting will be on March 7th. And by that time, all plans should come in. I'm pretty sure there will be some extensions requested and granted. So, but anyway, so, but to me, this is the most important things that we need to figure out how we're going to do. As far as a RAD-TA subcommittee, I don't know where they're yet. And another thing, it seems to me that was the new, and Sanjay, help me out, because you will be staffing that committee. Is it Racial and Ethnic Disparities Committee? Is it Equity Committee, another committee of the Youth Development Division Council that is being formed?
It's the Equity and Disparity Committee, and we've had kind of conversations internally about how much they would be involved or have a hand on the racial and ethnic technical assistance. Naturally, there will be some connection there, but I think based on my understanding, and I'm open to being corrected on this, but the primary role of kind of overseeing this process will stay with the Juvenile Justice Committee.
Okay, I have not been party to that conversation, so let's have continue them internally. But meanwhile, just for the sake of us being, staying on track, let's stay with those immediate tasks, and if that's okay, we can table the rest.
So I am going to ask
later, or gets more understand. Sorry, Molly, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I'm going to ask with the review period. So there's 23 plans. I'm relatively sure that I can say for other team members, they don't want to review 23 individual plans, even though it's only really one question. Can I get some nods probably for that particular piece? But I do think that we don't have all of our members here today, so we can outreach to each one. I would like to at least have 3 people look at each question. Does that seem like a reasonable number of people to pull together, and not all at the same time, but just assigning kind of groups? Christina or Kiwi, I don't know, you may have experience of looking at questions or not, but I'm going to ask Nakia, Andy, Adrian, Rafi, I know I'm not sure you're going to be, I think you're going to be there at least for another month, so we can hang on to you. I would really like to hear from council member or subcommittee members what they think.
I have a question when it comes to the one question they're asked, like, how long is it? I don't know the process, so it's hard for me to envision what participation looks like.
So
yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of think about the same way. I don't know how long it is, so a little bit more information for me, I guess.
So Sanjay, I'm going to ask you, can you tell me what kind of the average you've seen and what's been turned in so far?
I would say between, it's only 3, right? So between, so just perspective, for this component of the submission previously for the plans that were approved back in the summer of 2021, it ranged from no answer to a paragraph to about up to 3 pages. So I think based on the resubmission criteria that we shared, the average, I would say, would likely be between 2 and 5 pages, probably centering closer to 2 or 3 pages, possibly even 1. But I think the average will probably be around 2 to 3 pages.
Thank you so much. Does that help, Adrian and Andy?
Yeah, that kind of slims it down then, I guess.
Yes, with it being that long, I would probably say yes. We should probably, for me, it would be nice to then divide it up. But if it was like the paragraph, I'd say, oh, yes, let's all read them. So it is nice having the idea of how much quantity we are talking about.
Absolutely. That's totally fair. So if I go back to the tab that says how many people are on our committee, I'll have to find it again. Maybe, Tanisha, do you have it handy on how many of us are on the committee?
Looks like we have 9, but excluding Ralphie, that's 8.
So, Rafi, can we grab you for one more month?
I think if Brian has no issue with, with me taking on a project while being a state employee, I'm fine with that personally. I can read 9 pages.
Okay. And really that's, so there's 24 and I divide that by 3 teams. That's, if I think about that right, that's 8 per team. Am I doing my math? I understand there's only 23, that one only has to do 7, but does that seem like reasonable math to everyone? Or we could break it into teams of 2. And if we broke it into teams of 2, that would give us 4 teams. And then that would cut it down to 6. I'm open. Andy and Adrian and Nakia and Kiwi and Christina, you guys are the ones that are going to be helping me read these.
What is the question?
Do you want to do, is it okay to stay at teams of 3 or do we need to go to teams of 2? Kind of like, what is your thought process there? And it's the difference between 6 and 8 plans to read.
I'm figured on a team of 3.
I think that's good.
Just more minds to figure it out, I guess.
I like that too.
That's
thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks, Christina. Thanks.
And another thing I just thought about, and I'm learning a new way of expressing things. So after working on a couple of work groups, I've learned a new, to me, terminology is called think talking. So I'm thinking as I'm talking, probably not a good practice, but bear with me. What it just occurred to me, but I think that might be helpful, but tell me if it's a complete waste of your time. Maybe at the next meeting in March, we could have a bit of time spent looking at the evaluation criteria that Sanjay had put together, so we're all in the same place. It's kind of like reviewer training a little bit, so we all understand what we mean by a score 5, so Sanjay that'd be something that you would be willing to help folks understand, and we'll save some time on the agenda on March 7th.
Yes, and for everyone's information, starting the 3rd week of February, I will be out on leave for 2 to 3 weeks. But I think that would be right around the time that I would be assessing my ability to return. And I definitely think that for 2 hours, even if I'm still out on leave, I can dedicate and make sure that I can participate in the March meeting and go over the evaluation and the scoring rubric, I guess, is one term that could be attached to it. So yes, that's fine.
Oh, thank you, Sanjay. I think you're right on, Anya. Coming all of having the same understanding would be awesome. Christina.
I was just going to comment that when we did the reviews, when we were assigned like 4 or 5 counties last spring, it seems like it was, that SMART sheet that was put together, I know it had a lot of columns because we were reviewing, looking at the whole plan. And this is just one of the questions in the plan. but I think that smart sheet was really great. So I don't know if that could be on a small scale replicated.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think here's, yeah, I remember now when I said it out loud, we can use the same one. I realized, oh my goodness, it's just so confusing. So yeah, we'll make a smaller one. Will be just similar, structure, but it will be limited to county name, submitted plan, and each reviewer will have own, column.
Yeah, I think that that could help anchor everybody to be making sure that we're sticking with the criteria that we went over before, because there was, I believe, a consensus on that. So it would be good if we all make sure that we're following that and are anchored to that.
Right.
I think that's great.
And I just want to add, before we transition in the agenda, a more personal sharing. It's been quite a eye-opening experience to have the opportunity to build relationships with the counties one-on-one, the 9 that I have so far, and hopefully that will continue with the remaining 8 counties and beyond. Definitely hoping to have the opportunity to engage and collaborate with all 36 counties. But, I've had the opportunity to learn a lot about each of the counties that I've virtually visited with. And, there's a lot of things that you don't get to realize in like a grander process like this. And I also feel like the counties who have met with me so far have gotten the opportunity to learn more about me and the work that I'm doing and why I feel like this work is so important, and just, even some things on a personal level that has been shared both ways. So it's been a really enlightening experience. Definitely some robust conversations that have been what we deem in the YDD as courageous conversations, but always very pleasant and cordial and respectful and professional as well. But I think that there have been more positive takeaways from this journey so far than anything else. So that's very encouraging. And I look forward to continuing to work with the counties moving into the future.
Oh, thank you, Sanji. That's awesome. I love opportunities and venues for that communication. So, Anya, do we have enough to move forward, or do we need to continue to make a decision?
I think so, because there's quite a bit of work that needs to happen between now and the next meeting. And at the next meeting, we will do an overview of what reviewer expectations are and have some things together. And we will continue this conversation at a later stage. But if that's okay with the committee, I prefer to keep things like this is our immediate task, and now let's do it, and then we will move. But yeah, if that's okay. Hi, Dabiri. So good to see you.
I think that's great. I really like just that very tactile moving forward, so that we can make sure we're hitting the kind of checkpoints along the way. Okay. So the agenda again. I'll find mine. Let me see.
I'm going to stop sharing, Tanasia. Sorry.
And thank you, Sanji.
Yes, thank you, Sanji. That's awesome.
So we have a couple more items on the agenda. Amali, sorry, back to you.
No, I just had to look up at it to where I can kick it, but I'm now kicking it to you.
Okay. And thank you. We don't have a whole lot of time, but actually this conversation that we had was it was a great segue into what I'm going to share with you next. Part of the challenge, I think, was our plans review in the past or during this last biennium was that we didn't have a whole lot of understanding and structure. So hopefully we will be in a better shape with the resubmissions review and then moving towards the next biennium. And that's basically what this alignment of prevention, basic, and diversion services is. So Nikia just left us, so I can say whatever I want about the basic and diversion services. But joking aside, so just a little and very kind of high level background, and Molly and Christina, if you want to help me and provide additional details, so if there are any questions, we'll try to answer them collectively. So the juvenile crime prevention is a three-legged stool, really. So the YDC, YDD have responsibility for the juvenile crime prevention funding. I mean, I'm repeating myself on purpose. So there's prevention funding. Oregon Youth Authority is responsible for administration of basic and diversion funding. All these funds go to counties. Now, in addition to those three, YDD, YDC also administer funding to the tribes. So Andy Leonard, our great friend Andy, who is on this call, he's actually one of the JCP coordinators working for a tribe, Warm Springs. So OI doesn't have those funding go into the tribes. So that's kind of a little smaller scale. Now, somehow the YD, I'm losing my words here. The JCP prevention funds are super prescriptive. We have two statutes that guide what the council and the division do and what goes into local juvenile crime prevention plan. Not quite that detailed for the basic and diversion. And yet in our statute, it says that we need to make sure that we see some kind of alliance between JCP prevention and basic and diversion funds on a local level. Now, the big question is, what is this alliance? What does it look like? And that's the question we've been pondering upon with OIA staff. And they have, of course, much bigger task, but it's their agency. I'm not just gonna go into detail. It's being worked out what those funds mean and how the agency administers them and what does it look like on the local level. However, speaking of immediate tasks, is important task and smaller tasks. So what has been broken down to lately on a very small task, how can JCP prevention plans be aligned with JCP basic and diversion plans? What does this alignment look like? And it seems like an easy question, but it's not. Because first we need to come out what's the definition of alignment? What is it that we're trying to align? Is it the same kids that are being served? Is it the same outcomes that are being measured? So there's a listening of things. So again, it's a huge conversation. I don't have answers for it, but I'll tell you what we've done so far as trying to reach this, at least some kind of organizational alignment. So not that long ago, a couple of hours ago, I met with Laura Ward, who is my counterpart for OIA vis-a-vis JCP funds, and Debbie Martin, who is amazing. I must say, this woman is just like super on track of everything. And they showed me like super fancy calendar of how they structure the JCP basic and diversion funding progression. When they send out the invitation to apply, when they start working with procurement, when they do this and this and that. And what we've found, just looking at it side by side, and by the way, they shared that template with me. I'm super, super thrilled. Next time I'll show you some kind of timeline. I will look like super professional. I'm just dying. I just honestly didn't have time to brag today because they just sent it to me. But anyway, joking aside, where we see, so as far as like internal agency alignment, that's super easy for us because we'll still go through similar procurement, processes. We'll still wait for the budget to be released by the legislature. So there are some things. What is different though for us is how much time we send out the guidelines ahead of time. So now you've had some taste of what it takes to review JCP plans, prevention plans when they come to us. So we need to allow time, both for people to put the plans together because there is just so much going in there. And then we need to have ample time for us to review the plans, because when we scramble it, we do not allow for time for back and forth communication. So some of the issues that we're dealing with now could have been resolved in the review process. So long story short, this is all it's about. And another thing that both agencies agree, ultimately we have to think about our consumers, like what will make sense to them. So we will be sharing what we've come up with at the next work group meeting on Thursday. So it's work in progress, but I just wanted to give you an update that it's part of the conversation, and I don't know what the end product result will be like, but it's something that we're working on. I don't know if Molly, Christina, and the reason I'm going to, Christina is left, Molly, because she's on that work group as well.
Yeah, no, you covered it. Really, it truly is a big ask from the legislature. It was a budget note for OYA, and it just made sense. And Anya came along and made sense for us to go ahead and align with YDD. I'm losing a lot of people, and I appreciate everyone's time and being really respectful of it. So are there any questions of the group that's left? And then I'm just going to ask Anya, is there anything in other business that we need to notify everyone of?
No, unless somebody has business to bring to us. I always you have this other business on the agenda just in case somebody has an issue they want to discuss.
So Kitty, not to put you on the note at all, but you have been great about observing, and I'm just curious if you'll share your observations with all of us talking heads. Just what was your experience like today with us? And he may be multitasking like many of us are as well. I make sure I keep my camera on for this meeting because I chair it so that I can't multitask. So welcome to BD. It's nice to see you.
Hello, how's everyone? Sorry I'm late. Today I got slammed, so.
Yeah, no worries.
I have to race out to another, but I needed to make sure I popped in. And so I'm sorry about that. Normally that's not the case for me, so.
And actually, I think, unless there's anything else pressing, I think it's that moment in time to just say, great meeting today. What I really appreciate is Brian and Melissa sharing with us the work. I love the fact that Sonji got us. Thank you so much, Sonji, for getting us to a point where we were able to make a plan to finish the plans. So I'm super excited. Thank you for that. And I don't think there's anything else for the good of the order.
I think I'll share the agenda if you don't mind. I think there's one other thing on there.
Yeah, we forgot about compliance monitoring update.
I know we did, and if we need to say it, but there's really just, well, by all means, I love to hear the update, and I can stay on.
I don't have much to say, but if you guys want to hear some recent updates, then I'm happy to share. Let's see. So I've been attending some online meetings with OJJDP regarding the compliance manuals revisions. So those I think are due in June. Mostly lately. So I've put inspections on pause because I've been focusing on getting all of the data needed to report to OJJDP this month. It is not yet open for reporting. I just checked this morning. But for I need like 3 facilities left for their declaration forms on juveniles held in FY21. That will put me at my 85% goal to be compliant for the state of Oregon when reporting. And then when we get the data from the Oregon Youth Authority, that will probably push me up to like 100% because there's a lot of detention centers on that list that we're going to get data for. So I've, been learning this new position. And in addition to reporting, I had to reach out to some folks at the Department of Corrections. I've got their training curriculum that needs to be sent to OJJDP. I was in correspondence with DPSST, got their facility inspected for the year. They said everything was compliant. What else? Last week, I was on the phone with the compliance monitor in Ohio. I was on the phone with him for over an hour, and really nice guy. And he's been doing this job since 2008, 2009, very informative, friendly. And we exchanged some documents so he could give me some advice on how we could make them more simplified. And he shared what they do over there. So, I mean, it's really exciting. All different states do everything different, but I feel comfortable. And if I need help, I can reach out to him anytime via email or phone and just get some help. And yeah, that's mostly what I've been working on, is getting all the data needed for this month to report. So, yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. I just wanted to make sure that you all know that we're on track to maintain compliance. And if there are any major issues, we'll let you know. And Marley, before you adjourn the meeting, I just want to say thank you to Tanasia for being with us for this, a little over 6 months. Really appreciate all the work you put in there. Sad to see you go, but you're not going far. I'm sure we'll be sharing the screen on multiple occasions.
Thank you.
But well done, and thank you. Molly, back to you.
Thank you. Actually, thank you for all the staff at Tanasia. Thanks. I got to talk to her a little bit before the meeting started, and kind of give her a hard time for leaving us, and I'll miss her because she's really jumped in and took over very quickly. So thank you for doing that. And with that, I think I will adjourn the meeting. Everybody be safe during this crazy, crazy month of legislative session. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.